I have continued to sing the praise of Quake, one of my absolute favorites, first-person shooters of all time. I bought the Quake remastered edition when it came out last year in celebration of the Quake 25th anniversary. I picked this up on PlayStation 4. Since then, it has undergone some significant changes, and I wanted to talk today about one of the new pieces of content that came out with this game. So just to get you guys up to speed on everything Quake, I will post links to all of my other reviews in the description box below. There's a lot to go through. If you're interested what's included on this, I highly recommend you check it out. It is, I believe it's $10 on the PlayStation Store. You can get it for free if you are a member of Xbox Game Pass for your Xbox console or for your PC. There's a lot of stuff here. It includes 60 frames per second mode, 120 frames per second mode, 4K, widescreen support, enhanced models, dynamic lighting, anti-aliasing, new depth of field changes, and it includes the entire original unedited soundtrack from Nine Inch Nails, which is by itself, like, just the soundtrack in this game is ridiculously awesome. But that is just the kind of what the game runs on. The content is as impressive, if not more impressive. It includes, obviously, the main Quake 1 campaign. It includes Mission Pack 1, The Scourge of Armagon, Mission Pack 2, The Dissolution of Eternity. Then Machine Gun Games released some mission content for it afterwards, Dimension of the Past. And then they announced last year during QuakeCon, Quake 25, Dimension of the Machine. They have recently added Horde mode as well as Honey. And that's what today's video is going to focus on, is Honey. Now, Honey was a Quake mod that came out many, many years ago. It was an unofficial expansion kind of to the game. It just included 2 levels. And it was designed by a designer, Christian Greywert, who is now a senior level designer at Machine Gun Games. But when this came out, it was just a kind of a love letter to Quake and using the tool set and the engine to make a fabulous experience. And boy, have I got to say, this was a really, really fun ride. It's short, but it's sweet, and I highly recommend it. So what exactly is Honey, and why is it so celebrated? Well, you're looking at some gameplay here, and I do a couple jump cuts throughout so you can just get a kind of taste of what to expect. But unlike other Quake games where each level is kind of contained and then you get to some sort of portal or some sort of door that progresses you to the next area, this is all done in one shot. So there's definitely this single level intricate design, and honestly it reminds me a lot of Dark Souls. If you're familiar with the Souls universe and how cool the levels are and how winding and twisting and turning they are, and you see pathways in the horizon that lead you back to different waypoints and objectives. That is really the feel for this, and I feel like Honey was way ahead of its time on level design because of that. You'll find pathways and walkways that lead you to new areas, switches that will open gates that allow you to rapidly loop back and complete areas you didn't before. It's very different, and it's something that I felt like rewarded you way more than any other Quake game I've ever played. Solely for exploration, you would find hidden weapon caches everywhere, in secrets and armor upgrades and quad damage and teleporters that led you to bypass certain areas of the level, or at least gear you up properly, because this is rough. Because there's no mission structure and you don't get to basically reset at any checkpoint, you're doing this all in one go. There's a lot of times you're going to be basically running into areas with very low health, very low ammo, and I think you're going to die a lot because of that. It's hard to kind of get ahead and stockpile in a game like this, as where I feel like in other Quake games, you kind of had your pick of what weapon you wanted to use for the most part. Here you're very limited to what you get, and a lot of that is because they want the difficulty to obviously be there, but it's also because the certain weapons, particularly the grenade launcher and the rockets, especially in the second map, are used to actually open doors and progress through the challenges. So you're not going to get those big hitting power weapons as early on as you would. You're going to be doing a lot of heavy lifting with your shotgun and your trusty axe. And they've definitely changed how the axe works. Now it gives zombies, which is phenomenal. So you're going to be using that quite a bit because there's a ton of zombies in this game. And they've also added a lot of new mechanics as well, on top of all the hidden stuff that you have to explore and find. As I mentioned, there's a lot of areas where you have to shoot targets to progress into another area. There's also some really cool platforming in this game, which is something that I never thought a Quake game would really do well at, but surprisingly they pull it off. You'll be walking over essentially like little tightrope type areas and very thin little boards and pathways as you progress through the levels, which adds a huge sense of danger, especially when enemies spawn very far away from you and you're trying your best to essentially, you know, walk the tightrope while fighting hordes and hordes of enemies. They've also done some really cool things with lighting effects, and there'll be instances you go into these rooms where everything is completely pitch black. It's almost like these seance rooms where they have this very small candle lit, you know, Satan star in the middle, and of course you walk inside of it and a zillion enemies spawn. So they've changed a lot of just the overall mechanics in terms of how the game is played. I mean, even here with this level, you know, you press a switch and an enemy drops down on a platform. Well, now that's your next area to explore, and you don't really know where the area and where the levels are going to take you, and I really did appreciate that about this game. And then of course there's just a slew of enemy spawns, sometimes even right behind you. So just because you've kind of cleared out a room doesn't really mean you've cleared out a room. And more often than not, there's somebody coming behind you. And I credit the amazing sound design in this to hear the grunts and the growls and all the unique tells of each of the specific enemy types to kind of give you a hint that, hey, maybe you're not alone. Even though you just cleared a room and you walked into the next room, there might be somebody who just popped out behind a hidden door or something behind you. That was really a lot of fun. And lastly, and you saw a little of it here in the video, and I think it comes up again a little bit later as well, this game was very heavy in dialogue, which was something that I really appreciated. And I don't mean dialogue like verbal dialogue, unfortunately, where a character talks out loud. There's still just the traditional Quake grunting and running and ooh. That doesn't go away. But what you do get instead is a lot of discussion where character will type, you'll read something like, oh, this door is locked, or I don't have the weapon yet, or you hear a rusty gate outside, kind of narrating what's going on. And I felt like that did add a little bit to the ambiance as well, particularly because when you think of some of the other Quakes, you're just kind of experiencing it on your own. I think having somebody read it out to you, and some of it was intentionally funny. I'll get to the ending in just a moment. But some of it was definitely like made me laugh. Like, oh, that's kind of a corny thing to say. But I felt it pushed the game as well, and I thought that was a very welcome change. So the Honey mod itself is just 2 levels. Each of them took me about an hour or so to beat. It's not very long content at all, but I feel like it's very dense. A lot of that time was me saving and clearing a room and going very slowly, constantly reverting back to old saves, as you just saw a minute ago where I died, and trying again with a little better, trying to be a little better about my health and that sort of thing, because this game is challenging and you are going to constantly be low on health and constantly low on ammunition, and it's going to force you to kind of take your time and crawl through this experience. There are 2 levels, as I said. The first one, I don't know actually if they need to be played in a specific order, but the 2 levels are called Constantly No Respect, and the other one is called Sheer Hellish Miasma. And I think the Sheer Hellish Miasma was insanely cool because you were basically on these pathways of this bottomless pit below you, lots of jumping and platforming and lever switching and looping back around, trying to find a rocket launcher, which opens the door to progress through the level. So there was a lot of exploration that was required there to find that weapon to progress, and that was really, really cool. The story is, and I don't want to give too much away. I know it's like, it's only 2 hours. I mean, I don't want to say spoiling because, it is just a first-person shooter, like, let's face it. But I don't want to give too much away because I think it's something that you would appreciate on your own. But essentially, the game picks up and focuses on you being a person who goes to a village, and you find out that the village is poisoned. The church well is poisoned. So it's up to you to kind of figure out what's going on. And the game does reward you with one of the most hysterical endings for any game I think I have seen. I don't even want to give it away. I recommend you play it and enjoy it for yourself. There is a third level here. There's no combat. You don't even have a weapon, but there is a third level, and it's just kind of, I don't know if this was the designer's way of just showing how much mastery he had over the Quake engine at this time, or if this was always planned, but it's just very goofy, and there's a lot of stuff that's done in that DLC that doesn't exist in normal Quake. I'll just leave it at that. So do yourself a favor and check it out. But I love this. I love everything about Quake. I love everything about this disc, all of the fun modes. Like I said, I've done tons of reviews already on just about every single mission pack, with all the single player game and all the mission packs, the horde mode, honey, the multiplayer. It's all on my channel. Just go check it out. You can read all about it. Or listen to it, I guess I should say. But do yourself a favor and check this game out. Go play Honey. It's only a couple hours, and I think the ending alone will definitely make you smile. I'll just leave it at that. But that wraps up today's video review. I hope you found this informative and interesting. Thanks so much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.